Motions for World Schools debate are based upon the legislative model, which means the debaters are acting as members of a legislative chamber. Therefore, each motion begins with "this House." Because the motions are to be debated in general, we must imagine that this House is a worldwide governing body that governs all or most of the countries worldwide, or that this House is what each country's government and/or people would or should do. The motions debated in the World Schools debate are either propositions of value or policy. A proposition of value will ask debaters to qualify if the topic of the motion is good or bad, or has done more harm than good, or is better than some other alternative. For example, this House believes that the Arab Spring has done more harm than good. The motion is asking the debaters to evaluate the qualitative good versus the qualitative harms of the Arab Spring. A policy motion will ask the debaters to create an actual policy that will improve or solve a certain economic, political, or social situation given in the motion to be debated. An example of a policy motion is, this House would create quotas for women in high public offices. Therefore, the proposition team will bring forth a reasonable policy that will solve the problem that is in the motion. The proposition must outline a model or mechanism for addressing the problem. The opposition team can choose to engage with the efficacy of the proposition team's model or mechanism, or the opposition team can offer a solution of their own which they will argue actually solves the problem better than the proposition team's mechanism or model. Our example motion on quotas for public offices would require the proposition team to describe how they would create and carry out such a policy. The opposition team can choose to engage with the proposition's mechanism or model and explain why it will not achieve the desired results. Or the opposition team may choose to create another policy that is non-topical, meaning that it does not support the motion, but solves the stated problems better than the proposition team's mechanism or model. The motions can be framed in a philosophical or a real-world context. If they are framed in the philosophical context, then they will be posed hypothetically. However, under this approach, it is possible for the debaters to apply real-world examples to them. If the motion indicates a real-world context, it usually will be centered around something that is a social, economic, or political problem facing the world. Finally, the proposition and opposition teams should engage with the debate on a pragmatic and a principled level. The pragmatic level shows what practical implications will occur in the real world if we propose or oppose the motion. This is where the use of real-world examples plays heavily into the debate. Where has this happened before? What were the results of the previous times this happened? What is likely to happen if this were to be implemented as a large-scale policy in the future? In addition, the debaters should challenge the assumptions and values of the policies and scenarios that are being discussed in the motion on a principled level. Does proposing or opposing the motion uphold societal values that we hold most dear? Also, when values in society come into conflict, are we supporting the value that ought to prevail when we have to make that decision? This should be taken into consideration when evaluating the debate. Thank you for watching.